bienvenidos a Grado Cero. Mi nombre es Tania Guevara y en esta ocasión estamos en la sala de prensa de la FIL de Guadalajara para hablar con Serge Alternés, quien está presentando un libro recién editado titulado Live Soul, Citizens and Volunteers of Civil War Spain, que como su nombre lo indica es sobre la época de la Guerra Española, en el que Alec Weinman estaba como voluntario, y este trabajo es una colección de las fotografías que tomó durante ese periodo. Y bueno, I would like to start saying that first of all, I want to thank you for the opportunity to talk about this book. And well, for me, I think it's an amazing book. It's really emotive and it's really complete. But I would like to know, since there were so many pictures, that if you found it hard to select the pictures that you choose, that are published, do you have pictures that was left out?
Yes, it was hard, Tanya. There were 1,650 photographs in total, so obviously there were many that were left out. I spent a lot of time going through each photo over several months. Interestingly, now when I go back and I revisit the photographs, I find more and more in the photographs each time. The final choice of photos was made with the publisher and with the art director. We wanted to convey a theme in the best possible way, a kind of storyboard of a movie, unfolding the historical periods of the Spanish Civil War, but with focus on the people, the Spanish citizens, and the international volunteers. The art director was responsible for the cover of Live Souls. The Republican militiaman was her favorite photo. She also selected the pictures on the back cover, which portray citizens and volunteers.
Okay. I told you before that which one was my favorite, but I want to know if you have a favorite picture, and if so, did you share it or did you keep it for yourself?
I have a favorite picture, and it is the one she chose. But if you look at the flower, you see there's so much in that cover. There's so much in the people, there's so much in their expression. And it is a picture that really grows on you. And I find that's still the case. There are so many favorite pictures, though, so it's difficult, to make that one choice. Every picture has a story and a little history. Alec was a young man full of ideals. His pictures convey these ideals, his love for the country and its people, and how the Civil War was affected and affected all of their lives. His pictures do not focus so much on the military or on the sensational war photos, but reflect the humanity and the daily life of the people, the citizens and the volunteers during this conflict.
Yes, exactly. As you said, the focus are on people, and that's why it's really an emotive and beautiful work. And I was wondering what kind of reactions do you expect from people who are going to read this book, and how do you feel about it, having in your hands the work of so many years?
Thank you, Tanya, for your kind words, but I think Live Souls is very timely. We have forgotten a lot of our collective history, and that civil wars and refugee crises are still raging around us every day. I want the readers to feel that Alec, what he felt, his love of the people, his care for those in need, the empathy to those that are sharing in their suffering, and also his sharing of their humor and their joy. I also want the reader to feel and experience living history. Living history is a presentation of the Spanish Civil War and its implications on later events. As well, I want them to remember the courage of the Spanish exiles and the international volunteers. For me, Live Souls made me feel like I was being guided by their legacy and by their courage. It also taught me the importance of dissociating military, politics, and religion while allowing people the freedom of their own humanity and their own spirituality. This book could also be seen as a point of healing for all those affected by the suffering of this terrible civil war, and of course includes their descendants.
Okay. So besides the pictures, did Alec keep a journal? Because I think his life was fascinating, so maybe it would be interesting to read in his words.
Yes, my father did keep some journals. And I have an extensive archive of his 4,000 plus color photographs of his travels around the world. I have some journals from early childhood when Alec was around 13 in Pioneer, British Columbia, Canada. Then, after the Second World War, as an intelligence officer in both Austria and Italy. And finally, another one that shows his travels specifically to Latin America that he loved so much, and beautiful photographs of Mexico and Peru, among other countries.
Okay. Well, since you told me before that he was very fond of a city in Spain, Valdegarga, I was wondering if you had visited those places where Alec lived, because for me, I think it would be nice if you now take a picture and compare. I know it's kind of corny, but I think it would be really nice.
Definitely. My father went back to some of the places where, after the Spanish Civil War, he also visited, that he'd seen in the war, of course, and also visited many of the Republican exiles in other countries, such as Mexico. His most emotional returns were to Mexico in 1950 and 1953, and to the newly democratic Spain in 1982, after the death of Franco. I have visited some of the places where my father lived in England and Canada, but Barcelona, Valdegarga, and the Ebro Front are very high on my list. My intentions are to return to the places he lived, wrote about, and photographed. I've made excellent connections here at Phil Guadalajara and plan to visit Spain next year for the publication of a Catalan and Spanish version of the book Almas Vivas. I also plan to do the promotion in Paris and London the year after. My intention, along with international publishers, is to start rotating exhibits of Alec's photographs starting next year.
Okay, so finally, I would like to know what made you decide to publish Alec's work after these years, and if you are going to keep sharing more of his work and life.
In 1975, Alec was contacted by a publisher from London and was asked to loan his photo collection of Civil War Spain for a book publication. The London publisher was wanting to publish a book called The International Brigades with 200 of Alec's photographs and an introduction by a very well-known Australian author and journalist. But Alec felt, however, when he read the draft of the book, that it didn't really give the international perspective of the Spanish Civil War beyond a very military perspective from an Anglo-American point of view. So he started writing his memoirs. And after a decade of prolonged financial difficulties, the publisher eventually went bankrupt, and the photos were deemed lost with all the materials he'd sent. Shortly thereafter, my father developed Alzheimer's and was unfortunately unable to complete his memoirs, nor recover the photo collection and all the documents he sent. But after 40 years of searching, I finally recovered my father's photographs and his memoirs. I decided to write Live Souls to honor my father's memory and share his story and photographs with the world. I felt that the format of the book should be appealing to a general public as well as a specialist audience. This book is set up as follows: a preface with a timeline giving the historical context, Alex novella-style memoirs, followed by Alex 210 photographs that I personally captioned as I didn't have the detail on them. And finally, I added an afterword on the effects on future world events from the Spanish Civil War on. In this way, the reader could be touched by what Alec observed and experienced. I felt this was the best way to share the honor of all those who suffered and died in this conflict. Yes, of course, my intention is to make further publications based on Alec's work, namely his color travel photographs and other parts of his fascinating life.
Okay, well, thank you, Alex. Thank you, Serge. And well, I think that it would be interesting if you tell us something to keep convincing. I mean, I don't think you need force many, because this is a very interesting book, and I'm sure many people will be attracted. But in your words, what would you tell people to read it? Because as you said, sometimes the collective history is forgotten. Sometimes we keep us outside the feelings and the people, and we tend to be very objective, if you want, and not very in touch of it's important. So why should everybody read this kind of work?
Tanya, I think what I experienced and learned in this process over the last 2 years after discovering the photographs was that there's so much history packed in the Spanish Civil War and its implications. I personally learned more about the 20th century and even the 21st, having experienced personally the Yugoslav wars and the conflicts there in the Balkans and other implications of the Spanish Civil War, that I felt that in one book it would be nice, in a shorter read, in 300,000 words, with these amazing photographs, to be able to learn so much about our history, our 20th century history, and our culture, because it had huge implications on culture, on medicine, and in the future of what we are still living today.
Okay. Well, thank you, Serge. Por mi parte, esto es todo. Los invito a que no se esperen a que se publique esta versión en español, sino que se acerquen al trabajo de Live Souls, porque ustedes abren el material y las imágenes que están seleccionadas, son realmente maravillosas. Y si no, ya podrán leer los pies de página en un año en español, pero yo la verdad hay emociones que son universales y no necesitan un idioma en específico, y esto es precisamente lo que ocurre con este libro. Y por mi parte esto es todo. Muchísimas gracias y adiós.
Muchas gracias, Tania. Muchas gracias. The art director